Hey, everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-Affleck.
And it's time for
The summer winds drifting in, UnSpun.
Well,
summer's over. Hey, what do you think of the new theme? Or update of the theme there?
Your son is very talented.
A little edgier this time, but it's the same basic feel to it. But, Pierce-Affleck, Farhaven, check him out. Playing somewhere soon near you. Thank you, Pierce.
He is Farhaven, just in case you missed that. Farhaven, they're very, very good. If you have an opportunity to see this band, it's wicked. Watch on YouTube. There's some great performances there as well. But I digress. George-Affleck,
Yes.
what episode are we in here? Like, what are we? Are we like 5 years, 6 years? Where are we? Like, I've lost track.
We were talking about this before we took a break, which this was our longest break ever. We left in July, I guess. I kept saying, because on those shows like American Idol and all those shows, they count every season as a season. So this would be like our 18th season or something.
Wow. So we're like Survivor.
We're
like
the
Survivor of bcpoli podcasts.
20 seasons. Yeah, I would say we started in 2019, right? Was it 18?
We did pre-pandemic. Oh, I think it was end of 18, actually.
Okay. Anyways, it's been a lovely time, and here we are back for a new season.
Yes, we do. Okay, and where do we start? Honestly, let's have a couple things. Housekeeping, if I may. A little bit of housekeeping. So UnSpun, an updated theme. We're still going to come to you every Thursday. Like and subscribe. unspunpodcast.com is where you find us. You can find us on social media, of course. We're still at George _Affleck, at Jody Vance, Jody with a Y, at Jody Vance. But we might go a little bit shorter on some of our episodes. We were kind of going 30 minutes as our hard out up to this point, but we're going to go longer when we need to and shorter when we need to. That's going to be how we modernize this. So let's go a little rapid fire here, and we're going to go hardcore local because that's who we are. But just before we do, I mean, what a summer for politics, both across North America, let's just say, whether it be the political landscape in Canada, which we'll get to in a moment, but what's happening south of the border, just to get your take on what's happening with Donald Trump, with 91 or whatever charges now against him and 4 indictments and what have you, still maintain it's helping him. He's good to go. Yeah.
Top of the polls by a long shot. And the only viable competitor that's, is a person who's even more potentially contentious than him. So it's going to be very interesting what happens, and it just seems to be bolstering his numbers. And will he be in jail when he runs for office, which maybe, or will he just be in a bunch of trials? It's very, very interesting what's going on down there, and it's like the circus. It's like there's a show on HBO called The Circus, which is worth watching if you can. Starts again in a couple of weeks, but it's a great show about American politics.
We should do one UnSpun special over the holiday season, perhaps when people go back on vacay, and do a what you should watch and what are we watching, because I've got a bunch I want to catch up with you on, which we sidebar when we talk off camera about. So now let's bring it back home. Federal politics, we've seen a massive shift. I mean, as you often have educated me and us, a couple of weeks, a few months is a lifetime in politics. This last couple of months since you and I chatted has seen a massive shift in the approval rating of our Prime Minister, and a surge in a guy who's chucked his glasses, rolled up his sleeves, and put on a gray t-shirt and talked about common sense. Conservatives surging now in the polls.
Yeah, not only federally, provincially, we'll get into that. Yeah, Polyev seems to be surging. Trudeau's way down in the bottom there. I think he's below the NDP right now. So it begs the question, will he call a leadership race, or will he stick it out and take the party down with him? I mean, there's still a possibility he has a minority government, and another minority government could come in. And I can't imagine the NDP or, the Bloc, I guess, could partner with the Conservatives, but I certainly don't think the NDP would. So the question will be how well the NDP does, and how they might bolster the Liberals' continued minority government in the next election if Trudeau stays. But certainly, based on the numbers right now, Trudeau is in getting a lot of heat about his leadership, and with good reason. And maybe it's time for a change.
Which typically happens. So let's put the unspun lens on this. Not unusual for a leader who has been in for the amount of time, 8 years. If you've ever watched Pierre Poilievre ever politicking, he says those catchy liners, right? And it's not unusual. Doesn't matter the party. After a couple of terms, people are looking for change, and in the unspun vein of when people are screaming about inflation, screaming about housing, screaming about affordability, crime, public safety, all of these things that you and I talk about all the time and we agree with, not unique to Canada. Issues of inflation and fuel costs and housing and migrants, the shift of people around the globe and trying to help people who are fleeing, untenable situations. There's a lot of that all over the place. So I just want to just give that unspun sort of reality, because there's a lot of headline clicking, clickbait, and just, yes, me too, oh my God, that goes on, and it works in politics to
it does, although it's
headlines.
Yeah, totally. It's interesting right now, and by the way, we are a part of this the Facebook Meta ban on, which is making the news cycle a bit curious for getting information, certainly on the federal level, but we too have been put into that list of you can't find us, some of our shows. I think more of our archived ones maybe, but are no longer available.
I have a workaround for that.
Content. Oh, you do?
I have a workaround. Yes, I do. On my iPhone, I can screen record our podcast so that we can actually put it up so people can watch it. We just won't have the data of the people. So it doesn't help, the smaller online publications and news organizations who really need to sell the advertising. Get it, but we're not really here to sell advertising as much as we're about educating people for now. We'll figure out more, but we will spread the word one way or the other. Let's get into down home right here in British Columbia. A big move in Abbotsford for the BC United, seeing one of their members walk across the aisle and really give some fire to the Conservative Party of British
Columbia.
Official
party status.
I know, right?
Official party status for the Conservatives, which means money and office space and all those things that come along with official party status in Victoria.
And a question. In question period.
And question period. And it's just, the NDP are going, thank you very much. We'll enjoy that next election victory without any competition. It's really, really bad that the center and right of center can't get it together. And part of it might have to do with the name change. It's an opportunity.
You think?
Well, it's an opportunity for the Conservatives because
for sure. They're
going.
Oh, I see.
Everybody knows what Conservative is.
Yeah.
What's United? Nobody knows because you got to do a whole brand process for that. So, that's what we've talked about this. The name of the BC Liberals to me was a nice, confusing name, and you pulled a lot of federal Liberals into the fold because of that.
Absolutely.
Now they're going, okay, who am I voting for? Probably the NDP. I don't know, but you've got Eby though. This stuff that happened in Chinatown, this horrible stabbings with this person who had been just let out of jail.
Not jail.
Not
jail. He wasn't in jail. He was. Let me just go over it because I've spent the last
go
little
over
bit
it because this one drives me crazy on another level.
I'm with you. So his name is Blair Evan Donnelly. He's 64 years old, and back in 2006, he murdered his daughter. His 16-year-old daughter. He murdered her, stabbed her to death. Was found not criminally responsible, so he did not get charged criminally and go to jail. He was remanded to a forensic psychiatric hospital in Coquitlam, Colony Farm, I believe it's called. Is it the forensic psychiatric hospital in Coquitlam? Mm-hmm. Then he was allowed out. The Provincial Review Board decided he was allowed out on a day pass 3 years later in 2009, and he promptly stabbed his friend. Then he went back in, obviously, into the forensic psychiatric hospital in Coquitlam until this past Sunday, where once again, the Provincial Review Board decided, yeah, you know what? He can go unaccompanied into the community. And he stabbed 3 people at the Light Up Chinatown event. Thankfully, those 3 people have non-life-threatening injuries. But can you imagine the trauma of those 3 people, a couple in their 60s and a young woman in her 20s, and the people around them that witnessed this? They're traumatized forever. Like, this public safety issue cannot be allowed to just fall off the news cycle again. These random attacks and the not criminally responsible, we're going to use the term NCR moving forward. That's what we mean, not criminally responsible. And you know what, George? I, for one, am actively asking for accountability on the paper trail or the digital trail that can take us to the people that said it's okay if this person who we found out today was actually deemed unsafe this April. He was
perhaps we can look back at some of the policies of several organizations, including the Pivot Legal Society, which David-Eby was a part of, along with other organizations that fought for the rights and the freedom of people who potentially shouldn't be let out of institutions onto the streets. And here we have a premier who's saying he's white hot mad about what happened in Chinatown. I'm going, excuse me, wait a minute, is that's not a pivot? Somewhat hypocritical of your policies that you've been fighting for about letting people have their freedom? This guy passed all the tests that are required, that organizations that David-Eby led.
But he didn't, though. See, George, there's an important detail. The news today, today is a fact that in April, this past April of 2023, he was deemed to be an ongoing risk to the community.
Yes. Okay.
So he did not check all the boxes. So while we can talk about Premier-Eby and the Pivot Legal and getting rid of places where that house, and some would say warehouse, and it's wrong, and it's a one flew over the cuckoo's nest situation, and that I'm just going to push that over there, because somewhere along this process a box was checked and somebody should be held responsible for that. And there's no accountability here, there's no responsibility here, because most of these review boards, obviously for privacy reasons, are kept secret or silent or quiet, or it's none of your business or whatever. And it is the business of that family, of the couple or the 20-year-old or the many other people who have been attacked by those who have been released on day passes that were still a risk to the community. When is the community going to be a greater importance?
Exactly. That's I was just going to say that, because I'm going, what is going on? Because, okay, here's an example where that lawsuit against the building in Yaletown about the safe injection site that was happening a couple months ago, right? They were suing. Yes. So I went for a walk today to go to a meeting, and I walked past this facility, which is if you know Vancouver, it's right across the street from a park. It was a safe injection site. They've asked to close it down next spring, I think it is. It's a while away. And it's been a real problem in the neighborhood. And if anybody's following the news, they've seen all the problems that this place is causing. So the neighbors had to go and have a lawsuit against to fight for their rights to have the freedom to live in their building and their community. But as a result, because of these neighbors privately pursuing this, there was 3 police officers now are stationed in front of this building. So is that what it takes for me? I have to actually create a class action lawsuit to get protected in my neighborhood now? Is that what we have to do as residents? We can't just assume our governments will do their job and keep the majority of us safe. It's crazy. It's
crazy. Well, I'm gonna double down on you.
But I'm
gonna double down on your crazy, because also new today, while you were in your meeting, didn't have a chance to connect on this. There has been some movement and update on the decriminalization and the open drug use in some places. We're finally getting to the place, George, where playgrounds and splash pads and water parks, you can no longer use drugs on the swing set at the school grounds. How are we in a place where it took until today, until September 14th, 2023, to actually write down that it's not okay to use in a schoolyard? Like, I don't understand how we got here. I don't. I legit, and that's not a politicization. I just don't understand.
I don't see, it's just getting worse. And we have now this whole rent control thing we have provincially. That means that nobody's going to be building any rental buildings. I know the GST is getting waived now. That got announced today by the federal government.
That's something, isn't it?
But who wants to build a rental building when you can never, ever make money if they keep this rent control that they've created in this province? It's proven that rent controls create a narrowing of construction, a supply problem of rental buildings, because why build them? So you're going to see a surge of strata developments to the city of Vancouver specifically, but anywhere. Why would you build a rental building? Okay, sure, I save 5% on the GST, but I can't afford to maintain the building once it's built. So why bother? It's crazy the decisions that are being made that, in a generation, you'll see. We're already 50,000 units of social housing behind in this country because of federal decisions. Now we have the provincial rent controls. We're going to be at another generation. We're going to have 200,000 or 300,000 missing units that are needed. And we're going to have homeless people everywhere because nobody's going to build these units for anybody because the private sector is not going to do it. And the government's clearly not doing it. So
that's going to be the shift, I think.
It?
You've said this from almost day one of this podcast, because housing's been a constant for us. Affordability around housing, or just access to any type of housing. I mean, I remember I lived with 4 people in a 2-bedroom when, growing up. We've all had some level of it at some point in our life. But today versus back in my early 20s when I was doing that crash pad thing, today it's my $400 a month studio apartment is now a $1,000, $2,000 a month studio apartment. A 1-bedroom is almost $3,000 a month. Let me tell you how wages have not kept pace with that. And I think what you said about those low cost, not fancy, on government land, easy built, not the little walk-ups and what have you, that need to be put on public property. And you, temporary or not, I don't care now. Like, let's get some roofs for people.
Yep.
Let's go.
The incentives are disappearing for any private sector development. So it's, a 5% GST is nice, but it's not enough. Where is the federal housing program? Stop with this rent control. This is the exact same argument about the empty homes tax that I always had. They were so focused on this 5 or 6% of empty homes. Meanwhile, the 94% of the full homes, why were we not focusing on building more of those? Why are you obsessed with these 6% when we should be focused on the 94% and build more of those? And except
I hope we do.
Politicians focus on the wrong things because they want to win elections. Obviously, it's like,
But even if we started building madly right now, even if we had the resources and the people, because the manpower, the people power to actually build these are, at a premium, because the people who actually do the building can't afford to live here. Like, they can't.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And we're, we have, Vancouver is desirable, but hey, I know a lot of people that have moved to Calgary, young people who are moving to Calgary, and they just can't afford to be here. And you see the Calgary rental and housing markets getting red hot. I have a friend who's trying to sell her apartment for a year now in Vancouver. She had a first, in Olympic Village, 1 person came by in the last 3 months.
Really?
Yeah.
That's shocking. Because I've had a couple people move there.
Size, but there's the units, but it's anything over $1 million, forget it, which is basically most apartments in the city. So if you can find a place under $1 million in the city of Vancouver, they get scooped up. But you think about it, at 8% mortgage rates.
Well, you get that stress test, right? When you get over $1 million, the stress test will bust you, because you have to go up to 13%.
Yeah.
Right? In order to secure the mortgage, which might actually help save the Canadian banking system again, because those stress tests have put it so high. I mean, there's that little, like, there is some good news in here, but we're focusing on what are the explosive stories. I can't believe we're going to continue to talk about Surrey Police Services. Did you hear about the Surrey Police Board's release yesterday?
Brett Locke and selling that part, or is that something else?
Well, the Surrey Police Board saying,
you shouldn't.
We have concerns here. Yeah. We have some concerns.
I mean, she's got to suck it up and start. The decision's made. You're the mayor of the town. You can still talk about the RCMP, but you got to think about safety in your town, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's get her done.
I talked to Melissa Granham, who's the executive director of the Surrey Police Board, yesterday when I was on radio filling in. And it was really fascinating to sort of talk things through with her, and just be like, you know what? Get to the table and let's collaborate. We need to get this done. It was actually collaboration was a big part of it, because Mayor Brenda Locke is really holding on to the fact that there's no plan, is what she's saying. And it's like, you are doing a disservice to those who are working. Like, come on. She is literally right now the antithesis of Brad West, in my opinion. Like, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. It's like, okay, you know what? And I spoke with actually a couple people on this subject. I talked to former city councilor Jack Hundile, and he was talking about how the province bears some responsibility here. Sure, I think they delayed it way too long to put the mandate down. It should have. It's too late to talk referendums. Everybody should stop with that already. And when people are like, well, the people have spoken in the last provincial or last municipal election, what did 32% of people vote in the last municipal election?
Yeah.
So the people who voted definitely had a majority, but
And Brenda Locke has got her. She got her PR. She got her. Okay, you fought the good fight. You got you fought the good fight. But now it's time to put on the mature pants here and say, okay, we got to start moving forward here. We got to put a plan together. It's my job as the mayor to do that. I'm on the board. I'm the mayor of the town.
There is a plan, though, George. I think that's important. I got to tell you, though,
she and the council have to get going.
Oh, I see. So, but she's saying there is no. She's saying there is no plan. I don't have a plan and I haven't seen the plan, but she's holding up the budget because there's no plan. The reason why there's quote unquote no plan is the plan that has been in place expired during the hiatus of council, that expired during while everybody just went, you know what? Okay, the mandate has come down almost 8 weeks ago. That's what's happening. And it was in her best interest to say, you know what? I'm just not going to do anything. And now we've got Surrey Police Services vehicles in a warehouse collecting dust. Surrey Police Services trained, some of them former RCMP, some of them municipal police from all over the country, who aren't allowed to be deployed in Surrey because the RCMP are saying, we don't want Surrey Police to get a foothold in here because we're holding out hope. And yesterday I had an aha moment, which I think you'll appreciate, is a former RCMP officer, Bruce Pitt Payne is his name. He's former Maple Ridge. And I didn't know what he was going to give us in terms of his opinion, but I wanted it because it seemed more neutral than what I'd been hearing. There's definitely polarizing pieces. And he said, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if the federal government stepped in here and said, listen, we're done here. Transition to the RCMP to take it out of Brenda Locke's hands and be like, you know what? From here, where we're the boss of you, we're telling you, Surrey RCMP, to transition to the Surrey Police Services. Period.
And let's move those cops to places that need them across the country.
And if you want to stay in Surrey, join the force. They'll take you. This should all be collaborative. It's embarrassing for Surrey. It is embarrassing for BC. And Bruce said, I got my fellow former members. He was a major crime investigator with the RCMP. He's like, the way I heard about what was happening in Surrey is my former member colleagues from across the country were coming to me going, what's happening in Surrey? What the hell is happening out there?
And I also remind, and the thing is, I'm going to remind people what I said, though, way back when this started, is that I still agree with Brenda Locke on this. And I was early saying this to you, saying, because I know Vancouver, that this Surrey police board or police force will cost 40% of their budget eventually, as it does in Vancouver. So prepare yourself, Surrey residents. It's coming. Now, the decision's made, so you got to accept it, but it will become much, much more expensive to police Surrey than it was with the RCMP, and that's a fact of life. And that's what she's still grappling with. You're stuck with it now. So move forward, get going. It's going to suck for the taxpayers of Surrey. I can tell you that, but there you are.
Honestly, we did go. Well, that's almost 25 minutes. That's how fast that went by. We're only going to do 15 minutes. Only do 15. Okay, almost 30. Oops. Well, one more little lob in at the end, a health note, as you know, I like to do. The updated Moderna vaccine for COVID-19, the Omicron BB 1.5, whatever, is coming, and you can get it with your flu shot. It's not going to be complex. We're not all going to special clinics and whatnot. You're going to just get it at your pharmacy, and you're going to roll up your sleeve, and it's going to help. This one updated. I spoke with Jason Tetreault and Dr. Brian Conway. Everybody is saying that this one will help you even defend against getting it again.
And it's for people under 60?
It's for people.
Anybody who wants it?
Months and older, period.
Oh, okay.
Everybody get it.
There was originally a thing saying that only 60 plus will get the next round of shots. Okay.
No, this is a new upgraded. And if you don't want an mRNA, you can get the Novavax. And that is not the mRNA technology. It works a little bit differently. But, getting some of the science around it. And I know people are like, how many boosters is this? Like, stop counting. I have no idea how many flu shots I've had in my life. And I'm no longer counting COVID-19 shots.
When did you get your last tetanus shot is what you should be asking yourself. That you're supposed to do every 10 years. So if you haven't had a tetanus shot in 10 years, it's really important one. Go get it. There's a shot.
Tetanus, shingles, RSV, pneumonia, pneumococcal pneumonia if you're over the age of 65. Also COVID-19. You know what? They're calling it Spikevax. It's not even the Moderna COVID vaccine anymore. It's called Spikevax. So go get your Spikevax. That's it for us. Where are we finding you? On social media.
This is George_.
George_Affleck. You're also on the TikTok, right?
I am George-Affleck, and Instagram George-Affleck, and the other thing that Facebook tried for a little bit, failed. Whatever that thing was called.
Threads.
See, long gone.
Threads, whatever that thing was called. You're so funny. And your politician school. Now I can't remember what.
Oh, campaign the campaignuniversity.com. The campaignuniversity.com, launching this week in the US.
There you go. The campaignuniversity.com. All right. At Jody Vance, you know that. I'll see you on Steele and Vance Thursday nights, 8 o'clock on Check with my good friend Linda Steele. Peace out, George.
Nice to be back. See you next week. Bye.
What if I too fast?